Welcome back.
We're
Another
back.
episode of Jay, Ted, and the Salesforce Saga. And man, we
How you
got
doing?
ooh, Ted. So you know it's end of the year,
Oh,
and you know how
tell me
things
about it.
get with work. End of the year, we got 6 months worth of work left, but we're trying to jam it into a 1 week period before everybody leaves. So
Oof.
yeah, things have been fun to say the least. Enjoying it though. I cannot complain. Enjoying it. What about on
Yeah.
your end?
Yeah, same. Just been finishing up a important project that we've been working on. It kind of helps sales leaders do some research a lot
Mhm,
easier than they used to be able to, so they can do planning for next year. So
mhm.
um, it's one of those great projects where everyone that's involved really wants the results, and so they're
Yeah.
really happy when it comes together, and they really make it a priority.
Hmm.
Those are the best types of projects, right? When everybody
Yeah.
wants to get to the end, for
Yes,
positive
yes.
reasons, So
Good.
yeah, it's a good one. But I've been heads down on that quite a bit. Um,
Okay.
so yeah,
All right. So look, you mentioned work, so we're gonna jump into it, and I'm gonna talk about work. Whatever
yeah.
happened to the invisible object that you were chasing down? Were you
You
ever
know,
able to
I
release it?
no, I haven't been able to get to that one yet. That's still there. I will get there soon. I promise we will put that one to bed. But I've been doing so much stuff with data and data loader and trying to get other
Mhm.
things that this particular one I was been able to put on the back burner and haven't been able to get to. So I
Okay.
still have that invisible object. Yeah, I'll get
Okay.
there. Yep.
You mentioned data loader. So for
Yeah.
the folks that's just jumping into Salesforce head first, why don't you give like just a little quick breakdown of what data loader is and why is and how is it used in the Salesforce ecosystem?
Yeah. So Salesforce is a database. It holds a lot of stuff. Well, what if you have that data that you want to in another place and you want to
Mhm.
put it into Salesforce? So data loader is good for that. It's good for like one-time loads and trying to like if you're doing something new within Salesforce and you got a bunch of data in another place or in an Excel spreadsheet, you can pop
Mhm.
it in. And it's also really good for taking information that's already in Salesforce.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you've got a 500 accounts and you want to
Mhm.
update a field on all of them. Well, nobody wants to go into 500 different accounts and update that. And
Yeah.
you certainly don't need to build an integration or something if all you really want to do is update, those accounts.
Ah,
And
I see where you're going.
Data loader can do that for you. So it's you basically, if you have that scenario, which is what I've been working on, I've been
Mhm.
working with probably about 50 or 60 different teammates all across the country. And to get the information updated in Salesforce, we've just been doing a simple process of I built a report that shows the data that we want to evaluate.
Mhm.
And in that report, it has the Salesforce record IDs for
Yeah.
those existing records in Salesforce. And then we just hit the button to export it and put it into Excel. And I just train these teammates up on what it is I want them to do in that Excel spreadsheet. And they go through and make some quick changes
Mhm.
to the information in the Excel spreadsheet and they send it back to me. And because we have those IDs, I can then take that spreadsheet and use Data Loader to then update hundreds and thousands of records in a
Mhm.
matter of seconds or a couple of minutes.
Okay.
So it's really powerful, and it could be dangerous. Like you can run a kind of like a delete script, or you
Yeah.
could accidentally update something,
Mhm.
incorrectly. But if you practice and do some test runs and make sure that you're keeping things simple, it can have a huge impact so that you can update, like I said, thousands of data points in no time at all. So
Okay, so
pretty
you
cool.
can pretty much leverage data loader like a data migration tool for the most part. You mentioned if you have a
Yeah.
bunch of records that may be coming in from another system, right? And you need a way to migrate those records into Salesforce, then data loader would be a potential solution there,
Yep.
as well as if you're looking to do say massive updates across thousands or hundreds of thousands of records, then you could leverage it to export those records, and based on the what we would call a primary ID, make those updates, then import them back in. Sounds
Yeah,
like it's a good tool that could potentially be used for managing backups too, right? If you
I
want
think
to,
so. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
great point. Yeah, because you can actually get to some data through data loader that you really can't actually inside of Salesforce, which is kind of an interesting concept. But yeah, Salesforce gives you multiple tools to do mass updates. Like
Hmm.
you can nowadays in Salesforce, you can run a report and then update rows of a report, which you never could do before. So if you had a bunch of things that you needed to
Hmm.
update, um, maybe a few hundred records, you could do that. You could also do that within a list view in Salesforce as well.
Hmm.
So if you have smaller numbers, you could do it that way. Salesforce also has a data import tool,
Hmm.
which is built into setup, and you can import some types of standard records, I believe,
Hmm.
but you can't necessarily work with everything. Whereas
Yeah.
data loader kind of opens things up, and you can work with all sorts of objects, and you can create new records, and you can update existing ones, and
Hmm.
you can delete, and you can export. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do with data loader.
Okay.
um, yeah, it's really a neat tool. The one there used to have one, this is kind of dating me, I don't think it's used anymore, but they used to have a data loader that you would download from setup and install on your computer, and
Hmm.
it had its own like little GUI screen, and you could do your work there. But years ago, MuleSoft built one online, and you just go to dataloader.io, and you
Hmm.
can log in using your Salesforce credentials, and it kind of does like a single sign-on type of login, and then you can use that online version. And since Salesforce has acquired MuleSoft, it's now under the official Salesforce umbrella.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and then you can actually, I believe you can pay for more advanced use cases of using the
Hmm.
tool. Like if you needed to do lots and lots of records, and you maybe needed some automation built into
Hmm.
it, then you can pay for like a subscription to be able to do more. But if you're not using huge numbers of records, and you don't need some of those extra tools, then you could get it and you could use it for free. And that's what I've been
Oh,
doing.
cool. Yeah, look, you
Uh,
mentioned like number wise, right? Pretty much if you want to update several records, like a couple thousand, 100,000, you may want to use that data importer. And but you do have the ability to update records within Salesforce, but I would think that they'd limit that, because if you do some type of mass update, say within an org on several thousands of records,
yeah,
then I can imagine performance is going to go in the tank for one, and two, you're going to
yeah,
disrupt several different just workflows within, that the users may be experiencing. And also I would think if you have, say, different types of workflows in place that maybe have certain triggers, right, to say, if, well, if I
that's right.
update this record, then create another record, and you do
Yep,
several thousands of those within
yep.
the Salesforce, then you could create a mess, and you can create a mess fast.
You can. You can. You can tell you've got that database background, even though you're new to Salesforce, because you're hitting on all the points. Like you're definitely going next level, like for sure. So that's awesome. And you know what we should do, and make a link to it in the show notes and stuff, is
Mm.
Salesforce has information online that kind of talks through those considerations, and also like the decision making points as to when you should maybe use data import tool versus data loader, and they have
Hmm.
some guidance on best practices with that.
Yeah.
And I think some of the things that you just alluded to are considerations that people really have to be aware of, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
And
those are
I
great
I
points.
kind of recall the guidance that you listed, that you're talking about. When I was taking some of the trailheads that touched on the data loader, I want to say
Uh-huh.
that some of that was included, to say, make sure,
Yeah,
a couple cautionary things. Make sure that if you have triggers that are tied to different updates and things like that, you want to make sure that they're set to
yes,
off, or if they are on, what they're within your expectation of what's going to happen, right? So,
right.
yeah. But
Yeah,
look,
because
I've
that could
been
be most
go ahead.
likely, like hopefully that's exactly what you want to have happen. You want your workflow to trigger, and for things to
Hmm.
kind of go through the way that you expect. But you have a complicated org and you're touching, records and objects that can do other things, or
Mhm.
tied into other workflows and triggers and so forth, that's a big consideration. So that's a good point. So I probably should have mentioned right from the beginning that what I've been updating is kind of like a safe field. It's actually a brand new field that has just been added to our org, and it is not connected to anything. So
Okay.
updating it, whether you're doing it one at a time or doing it in bulk, doesn't have an impact, and that's a huge consideration, because if I was monkeying around with some sort of field or something that was connected, I definitely would not be doing it as part of this project. So individually, it'd be part of a bigger group paying attention to the details. So that's a
Okay.
huge
And
consideration.
look, I'm gonna pose a question to some of those Salesforce developers out there. So we talked about data loader being one way that you can import or export a massive number of records. So I'm wondering if there is an opportunity to maybe a code-based solution, like say a SQL solution, right? Where you don't have to use the data loader tool. It may be some type of batch job, or you can inject SQL directly into Salesforce some kind of way to do those updates. So developers, give us the game. Like, is that something that Salesforce can do, or are we limited to just the data loader? So we'll be looking
Yeah,
for your input. I want to see what you have to
yeah,
say on
it's a
that
good
one.
one. I like that. I like that a
Yeah,
lot.
let's see what they got. And I know that we mentioned workflows a couple times, right? I'm kind of switching gears. Look, let me do the gear switch. Boom. I know
Yeah,
we talked about workflows a couple times. And for folks who may not be, knee deep in the Salesforce ecosystem, when you think of workflows, just think of three components. I say input, process, and output, right?
yeah,
And I can make it real simple. Think about making donuts. When you go to the donut shop, it's not like they just start out, oh, donuts popping out of thin air, right? You start with something, some type of raw material. So in this case, if it's a donut, it'll be some type of donut dough, right? And they work that dough and then they run it
mhm,
through a process, right? And
yep,
that process may be baking the donut, deep frying it, getting all that nice glazed sugar on that donut, that we love to kind of cheat on our diet with, and
yeah,
then you
totally.
get the outcome, which is that glazed donut that goes so well with a nice cup of coffee. Man, let me
Yeah,
stop. I'm losing focus. Let me bring it back. But yeah, so to kind of give you a simple kind of idea of what workflows is, that's a very generic version. Of course, I do encourage you, if you're, interested in it, go out, Salesforce, Trailhead, workflows, do those things, learn that stuff, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's
So
such a good way to put it. Like it really is, I think, so helpful sometimes to take a step back from some of the more complicated language,
mhm.
that you might read all the time, and then you get kind of get stuck in your head, like, how can I relate to that, or how does that make sense, to me? And just
Mhm.
kind of stepping back and looking at it sometimes like that, makes sense. You start somewhere, you process it, and you have something that comes out the other side. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, look, I like to keep it simple, Ted. That helps me remember it better. If I keep it simple, I'm good. I can say, oh, workflows, donuts. Donuts,
Yep.
man. Come on now. So when I'm taking that test, I see workflows, I say donuts and I go into it, you
Yeah,
know?
I was gonna say that kind of reminds me of one of those like memory tricks or something, for your
Yeah.
for your exam. How's the exam work coming?
Oh, so Ted, like I said, I took the practice test, man. I took one of
All
the
right.
three practice tests, right? And I know I still
Yeah.
have a little ways to go on my studying because I hadn't touched on some areas such as dashboards and things like that, reports,
Yep.
But I was like,
Yep.
let me go ahead on and take this test, see how well I do.
Yeah.
I did not pass. Let's get that out the way. I didn't pass, but
Yeah.
I still think I done very well considering the components that I hadn't quite studied for yet. Because
Sure.
the areas that I did study for, I done exceptionally well.
Oh,
And the
good.
ones that I didn't study for, just having certain background knowledge, I still done, I'd say okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
I'm
that's
feeling
good. Like if there's anything in the Salesforce admin exam that I am very confident in, it's reports and dashboards. So when you get to that
mhm.
spot and you're starting to learn that, let me know if you happen to need any help, because I've been doing that stuff for a very long time. So I'd be happy to help for sure.
Well, look, I
Yeah.
just made a mental note. Next time, when I do get to that section, we're gonna have a quiz TED section on the show, where I'm gonna pull
Yeah.
about
Okay.
4 or 5 good questions on reports and visualizations, things like that,
Yeah.
and we're gonna rapid
Yeah.
fire those things.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I've got my friend David wrote a book on Salesforce reports and dashboards, and he hosts his own live sessions all about dashboards and reports, called Dashboard Dojo. And
Hmm.
I just try to keep up with him. He is always cutting edge and like learning the newest thing that Salesforce is doing, and he's talking
Hmm.
to people at Salesforce that are doing new things with analytics. And it's he inspires me to try to keep fresh with that. So yeah, I'll take that challenge. I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready for any sort of quiz you can throw my way.
All right. So 2 things off of that. First off, you say your friend David, right?
Yeah,
David, Dashboard Dojo.
that's right.
That is an awesome name. Let's
Yeah.
just take a second and acknowledge that. Dashboard Dojo. Awesome
Yep.
name. You should have came
Yep.
to you. You probably could have named the show. Secondly, Ted, I don't know how good of a friend you are to David, but I think it'll probably be good to say, hey, David, can you stop by for about 5 minutes? Tell us about your book.
That's a good
Tell us
idea.
about dashboards. I don't think that'll
Yeah,
be a bad idea.
I think that's a really good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of guests and so forth, we've been talking about maybe having some guests besides
Mhm.
David,
Yeah.
on the show. Have you been thinking about that since we've last
Oh
talked?
yeah, yeah, I have. And I know that we've kind of touched base with a couple people. We're not going to give any names. We're not going to
Yep.
give any names, but these are definitely people who are well known in the Salesforce world. Some of them host different type of events, speak at
Mm,
several different type of events.
yeah, it's
So
true.
I wouldn't miss it. I think that they're going to bring some knowledge that's going to, I think the interview is going to be fire first off. We're going to have those Salesforce questions, but we're going to throw 1 or 2 off the wall funny questions in there. It's just,
That's
just
right.
personality, but we're going to get it. But
Yeah,
yeah, looking forward to it.
we want to get to know some of these people, and have a kind of get them to know the audience, and the audience get to know them. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm excited
So
about
stay
that.
tuned for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
what's I
mhm,
guess the last segment of the show, if we're ready to move on past our awesome potential speakers coming up, wild card. What's been going
mhm.
on in your wild card world, Jay?
So Ted, look, I'm gonna give y'all some life stuff that has happened, and then
Yep.
just some chill stuff. So life stuff. This Saturday, and time wise, because ain't no telling when the show posts, but around say mid December, we had a hailstorm,
Hmm. Yeah.
and it was a real life hailstorm. Like I checked the Ring video thing, and
Yep.
it done the neighborhood some damage. So insurance companies are definitely going to be in for it. And I've had about 10 contractors come knock on my door,
Hmm.
and roofing contractors, just to, give me some estimates, quotes, see where I am in the process. But nobody was hurt. So
Yeah.
that's awesome, you know. So that's the life stuff. Fun stuff. We are fully signed up for the upcoming Dreaming in Color conference next year. So we
Awesome.
will be there.
Awesome.
Yeah, we got our tickets, man. And I I have to reach out to some folks about, that commitment. It's been weighing
Yep.
on me, that that commitment about, you all know, if you watch if you don't know what the commitment is, I urge you to go back and check out say episode 1, half episode 2. All the
Yep.
details about the commitment is there. So I'm not going to dive too deep into that, but that's kind of been it in my world. Very, very cool, smooth sailing. What about on your end?
Well, I too have bought my ticket for Dreaming in Color, June in New Orleans. Very excited. I know you've actually like lived there. I've
Mhm.
never been to New Orleans before, so
Oh,
I'm really looking forward to kind of like the double whammy of going back to Dreaming in Color, but then also going to New Orleans for the first time.
okay.
Um, and so I did that, and booked my hotel, and then life wise, I've been listening to music and doing doing that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
I've got a couple of things to share. First, I've been listening to this Ron Carter album, um,
Okay.
which I really like, called Yellow and Green. And there's a um, piano player named Kenny Barron that's
Mhm.
on this album. And Kenny is an older gentleman these days, and thankfully he's still with us and still
Mhm.
playing. And I sent Kenny a note online today and just told him how much I appreciate him as a player. And I've got an album of his, and he plays on Ron Carter's album.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I don't know if he's ever going to get back to me, but I just wanted to tell him how much his music means to me. And also what kind of prompted me, one of the things that prompted me to about it was I've been thinking about appreciation, and
Mhm.
I read the review of this Ron Carter album online, and they panned it. Like they just had all these bad things to say, and I just can't see how these master musicians could ever put out anything bad. And so, and it's not bad. It's a great album.
Mhm.
And so it just kind of gets me to thinking about people that are critical all the time, and that don't appreciate what others are doing. And then I also just celebrated a birthday, and my son got me this
Oh.
album, which is not only does it have Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie on it, but it also has one of my favorite piano players, Thelonious Monk, on it as well. And on the back of the album, they have very famous producer um, refers to Thelonious Monk as a lesser light in modern jazz.
Oh.
Thelonious Monk is a genius. He is a genius. He is an American that should be like on the Mount Rushmore of American geniuses. And this producer, the producer on the very album, refers to him as something that's lesser. And so I don't know. It just take me a moment to think about these people that are so great at what they do and aren't being appreciated. And I don't know. I kind of think back. I feel appreciated at work. I'm not trying to go there, but I know some people don't. And I know that in my interactions and working on that project with people, I try to make sure that people feel appreciated. And so,
Yeah.
um, and that's one of the things I really love about this whole Salesforce world and the way people work together
Mhm.
and help each other out. I think there's that feeling of appreciation. And I think that goes a long way and is worth talking about. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a very positive message. And look, let me roll back first. Happy birthday, happy belated birthday, Ted. I did not know that you were turning what, 21? Happy
21.
21st
Yep.
birthday, man. You know?
Thank you.
And secondly, I mean, everything you said was spot on, you know. It's a lot of times we take some of the simple stuff for granted, you know,
Yeah.
and we really don't take the time to appreciate some of those things. I know sometimes I'm guilty of it, you know.
Yeah.
But
I
at
think
the
we all are.
same time, you never know what somebody is going through. You never know why. So it's, positive reaffirmation. It isn't a
Yeah.
bad thing, you know. Sometimes it's just as simple as checking on somebody, say, hey man, how's it going? You doing
Yep.
okay? Just
That's
stuff
right.
like that, small things to say, hey, man, you
Yep.
even if it's on the other side of the spectrum, say, hey, you missed it this time, but next time you'll get it. I tell my son all the time, he likes to play video games. He likes to play a racing video game with his cousin. And his cousin is older than him, and his cousin kind of, he wins because he knows a
Yeah.
little bit better. And my son tends to get agitated. Yeah,
Right.
a 5-year-old getting agitated, you should see it. And I have to come out and say, son, look, that's fine. It's okay. You're not gonna win all the time, but it's
Yep.
important that you take lessons from those L's that you take so that
Mm.
next time you're faced with it, you can progress. Even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just
Yep.
that much progression, you're still moving forward in the right direction.
Yep.
And I know I went totally around. I went from this reaffirmation, now I'm talking about that. But all that to say, Ted, everything you said was spot on.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. No, I think we have a similar outlook, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate the people that are tuning in.
Yeah.
Like it meant a lot to us. We talked about this offline, but it meant a lot that so many people saw the
Yeah.
post and subscribed and started watching season one. So yeah, we just wanted to also take a minute to say thank you back to anybody that's tuning in.
Yeah. And keep those comments coming because we are
Sure.
checking them on YouTube and replying. Some of them are super funny. Some of y'all
Yeah.
got thumbs up, hearts. Some of y'all got laughy faces. So, well, smiley faces because they were super funny. But we do
Yeah.
appreciate it. And to the point Tate made, thanks for everything. Tuning in, subscribing, the smiles, the tears, all of it. So, but Tate, I think that we're just at about time.
We
Close
are.
us out, brother.
Yeah. So this has been another great call. I hope everybody enjoyed it. We talked a little bit about life, what's going on in our world, talking about Salesforce and talking about our saga, whether we get to it like Jay getting to his practice test or not get to it like me trying to solve that invisible object in setup. But we'll get there. We'll continue to make progress. So please tune in next time. And thank you very much for joining us.